What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to a full tour and test drive of this gorgeous 2016 Maserati Granturismo Sport. I just want to give a huge thank you and shout out again to the team at Maserati of Tysons Corner. They recently acquired this car in their pre-owned lot, and I had to jump at the opportunity to review one of these cars because I'm a huge fan of them, to be honest with you. I know they get a lot of criticism for maybe being a little bit too slow or a little bit, outdated in terms of technology, but I think the gorgeous styling, the overall package of this car is really something here. So for a little bit of background on the Maserati Granturismo, this is the first generation of the car. It's codenamed M145, and it was unveiled in 2007 at the Geneva Motor Show, and it ran from 2007 all the way up until 2019. The second generation Granturismo was unveiled in 2022. I actually have a review of that car on my channel as well. I'll go ahead and link in the top right-hand corner. The overall design of this car was penned by Pininfarina, which is the Italian design studio that Ferrari and Maserati both used all the way up until, I believe, the early 2010s to design some of the most beautiful cars that we know today, such as this car, the Ferrari 458, the F12, all the modern classics, as well as the original classic Ferraris in the 60s and the 70s. A funny design or development story of this car is that early in its stages of development, Ferrari actually took the design of this car and remolded it into the California, which kind of left Maserati hanging a little bit in terms of the car they wanted to introduce. So I believe that this car holds the record for the quickest design, development, and production record of only 9 months, which is incredible. Back in the day, this car used to compete with entries in the segments such as the BMW 6 Series, the Mercedes CL, and the Jaguar XK. Because this car went all the way up until 2019, it actually outlived all of those competitors in terms of production, and it really was one of the last of its kind in terms of a naturally aspirated four-seater grand touring car. The Granturismo did receive a number of facelifts over its long production run. The one we have in front of us here today is a Granturismo Sport, which was unveiled for the 2012 model year, and it builds upon some of the more aggressive design elements we saw in the Granturismo MC, which is a more hardcore version of this car. So up front, you can see a more aggressive front bumper here with the traditional Maserati Trident grille. You have HID headlights right here with the Maserati script in the housing, which looks really nice. You have a long and flowing hood right here, which really gives a lot of design to the GT proportions of this car. Up front, you have the 20-inch MC style wheels here, finished in black. You have a 245 size front tire and a 6-piston Brembo caliper at the front, as well as slotted and vented rotors. As with pretty much any Maserati, you also have the 3 gills on the front fender here. They are a signature design element of pretty much any Maserati model. You have a little bit of a Pininfarina badge right there, designating that this thing was designed in-house by them. As we continue along, this is a very, very big car. It's around 192 inches in total length and 74 inches wide, so that actually lends itself pretty well to having a lot of space on the interior for 4 passengers to sit comfortably. I love the Maserati Trident here on the C-pillar as well. And if we take a look at the rear wheels, obviously the same gorgeous 20-inch MC style ones with a 4-piston brake caliper and a 285 size rear tire. One design element I really like on this car is actually under the fuel door. You can see it actually has a nice Maserati blue accented filler cap right there. So just really nice attention to detail that normally you wouldn't even see. But if we continue along to the rear, I also love the design back here as well. You can see the Maserati script right there on the trunk lid. You have LED taillights and those dual exhaust pipes that emit an amazing exhaust note, which we'll get into here in a second. But if we go ahead and pop the trunk, you can see it actually has a decent amount of space, especially only for a 2-door. You have around 9.2 cubic feet of storage back here. The rear seats do not actually fold down, which is unfortunate, but you can probably fit a pair of golf clubs or 2 in there, and definitely a few overnight bags. One other thing back here you probably didn't even notice is that the actual grab handle right here to close the trunk also has a Maserati design Trident right there. So just like little details like that really set this thing apart compared to the competition. Let's go ahead and hop in the Granturismo, but before we do so, I'll show you guys what the key looks like. You can see it is nicely accented in the traditional Maserati blue color with the Trident. On the back, you have the lock-unlock button, the trunk release, as well as the switchblade actual key function. This car was introduced way before the days of smart key access, so there's none of that here. But as you can see, as we approach the door handle, it is actually an electronic release that will pop the door open, which is very nice. I went ahead and flipped the car around to avoid some glare as we check out the interior of this car, but this example is finished in Rosso Corallo, I believe. I definitely butchered that pronunciation, but it is an extremely vibrant red here all over these seats, as well as the door panels and the dashboard. If we go ahead and take a quick peek at the back seats, you can see, just pull that handle and the front seat will motorize forward a little bit to give you the most access possible. And like I said, you actually have a fair amount of space back there for 2 passengers. It would probably be for shorter trips, but you do have some cup holders as well as a center console armrest. The interior quality of this car is stunning. You can see there's leather absolutely everywhere. You can see the aluminum door handle, the wood trim. You have a 10-speaker Bose audio system, the Maserati aluminum kick plates. You also have aluminum pedals down there, which look very nice. 2-person memory for the front driver's seat, as well as heating for both the driver and passenger units. Let's go ahead and hop in and fire this beast up. You do want to watch your head a little bit on this pillar. This is still a low-slung sports car at the end of the day. But in order to fire it up, like I said, you have the switchblade key right here. So you can stick it in the ignition the old-fashioned way and just turn it in the accessory mode here. And before we fire it up, let's go ahead and hit the sport mode button right here, which will open up the exhaust valves. Put our foot on the brake and turn the key the rest of the way. Apologize for the blinking display. That's just due to the camera. But let's just go ahead and give this thing a couple revs while it warms up a little bit. That's just in a normal mode. If we go ahead and open it up into sport. Incredible. Under the hood of the Granturismo is a Ferrari-developed 4.7-liter naturally aspirated V8. It makes 454 horsepower and 384 foot-pounds of torque. It's connected to a traditional ZF 6-speed automatic transmission and rear-wheel drive. 0 to 60 is rated at 4.7 seconds and a top speed of 186 miles an hour. Fuel economy, if you care, is also rated at 13 city and 21 on the highway. This is one of the most beautiful engine bays I think I've ever seen, guys. You can see the Maserati intake manifold right there with the Trident, the red Ferrari valve covers right here. I love how everything is also concealed under here to hide all the unnecessary accessories and stuff like that, so you can see what you really want to look at here. I love all the wiring and belt diagrams right here as well. Gran Turismo also has kind of a front mid-engine design. If we kind of go to the center line of the front wheels, you can see how far back the engine actually sits in the chassis. So I think this thing does have pretty good weight distribution. I know in the beginning of the video, like I said, this car got a lot of criticism for being a little bit slow, at least compared to the competition with, twin turbo V8s and stuff like that. But in my opinion, this is all the horsepower you need in kind of a car like this that can go long distances and sound amazing in the process. Reliability on these, actually, I believe is pretty good as well. I haven't really read about too many horror stories. I think these Ferrari engines are built pretty well. It's kind of just the electronics and stuff that you have to worry about. Let's go ahead and shut the door here and check out the rest of the interior on the Gran Turismo. So directly in front of you have the blue Maserati gauges right there with the Trident and the rev counter, as well as the speedometer. You have a little bit of a helper screen in the middle. I actually don't think you can customize that very much, but it does kind of have a live rev counter, which is nice. The steering wheel is this very nice leather-wrapped 3-spoke design with the huge paddle shifters behind the wheel. I think these were taken from the MC, like I said, the more aggressive track-focused version of this car. The rest of the interior quality, like I said, is very nice with the leather dashboard, all the wood accents, the analog clock right here. This is the 8.4-inch infotainment display. This is the main criticism I have of this car. This is so outdated and so hard to use, honestly. You have all the different modes and sources down here. You have a keypad for old, dialing for the phone and stuff like that, but no Apple CarPlay, no Android Auto, no touchscreen, which I honestly would just swap this out for an aftermarket unit if I had this car. On the left side of the infotainment, you have the sport button, the ice or winter mode parking sensor disable, as well as the traction and stability control defeat. Down below the infotainment, you have the climate controls, which again are a little bit difficult to understand. You can see the fan speed is right down here in the center. You have dual zone climate, obviously. The fan or air distribution settings right here. This is a very nice aluminum plate, though, that surrounds the actual controls. Hazard switch right here. You have the unlock and the lock button, as well as a little bit of storage underneath. This is the selector for the 6-speed automatic. Obviously, just put your foot on the brake and drop it down into drive. If you put it in reverse, there's no backup camera or anything on this car, but you do have parking sensors right there and that little digital helper screen. Obviously, all the way back up into park. You have an electronic parking brake right here. A little bit of storage right here on the right of the gear selector, some cup holders. And in the center console, obviously adorned in this beautiful red leather with contrasting stitching. If you open it up, you also have some cup holders down there. Directly above you, you have some sun visors, obviously a standard rear view mirror, and the actual buttons for the tow mode, I believe. So this disables the immobilizer and stuff. I think that's what these do, but if someone, again, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. No Alcantara headliner or anything, or no sunroof, but still very nice material up here. Some of the buttons in here, like you can see, are a little bit Ferrari sticky button-ish, so you can see the plastic and rubber is kind of wearing off a little bit, so you'd probably have to get some of this reconditioned with like rubbing alcohol and stuff if you want to remove that. Well guys, that basically wraps up the interior tour of the Granturismo here. As you can tell, the quality is amazing, just a ton of design flair and sense of occasion in here, but some of the other things like the sticky buttons and stuff and the technology obviously date this thing, but if you can put up with all of those things to deal with an amazing driving experience, I think this thing is well worth it. And with that being said, let's go ahead and actually just set the cameras up and take this Granturismo out for a test drive. All right guys, welcome to the inside of the Granturismo, and this is a really interesting car in my opinion. I think that this platform is criminally overlooked in the kind of depreciated sports car, you know, Grand Touring segment. I know people like to go straight to like the Aston Martin, you know, DB9 and the 6 Series and stuff like that, but in my opinion, this is a really, really cool car. It's not the fastest thing in the world, like I said, you know, but it has a lot to offer in terms of beautiful Italian styling, you know, an amazing exhaust note, a Ferrari V8 derived powertrain. First impressions of this car is just how easy it is to drive. It really lives up to that Grand Touring nature, especially, you know, as you're first getting behind the wheel here. The ZF automatic transmission is a welcome addition in this car. I know early Maseratis, especially the Quattroporte, had kind of that Duo Select F1 derived single clutch transmission, which was just not the right pairing. And unfortunately, it was really jerky and not a very good transmission overall. This ZF 6-speed really, you know, tames the experience down, makes it a lot more livable in kind of day-to-day traffic. So brakes also feel really good as well. They are the 6-piston units, no ceramics or anything like that, which is totally fine. I don't think this thing really needs ceramics. You know, and the other thing that I'm noticing is just, you know, despite how big this car is, it feels like pretty tossable in my opinion. You know, you have a long hood in front of you, but it gives a really nice vantage point because the fenders kind of dip down a little bit. So in that sense, you know, while it may be like a big imposing car on the outside, it kind of wraps around you and feels really nice, you know, and dynamic. The ride also feels really nice. We just had the car in its normal mode right now. It's not kind of chattering or jolting over bumps or anything like that. It feels really nice and well planted here. As we take some of these turns, like I said, there's, you know, a little bit of body roll, nothing, you know, crazy. Obviously, we're not going 10/10 or anything like that, but like I said, for how big this car is on the outside and how much it weighs, I think it's, you know, close to 4,000 pounds. This thing feels surprisingly, you know, well planted and stuff like that. Whatever they did with the exhaust with this car is just, honestly, it sells this car pretty much on its own, in my opinion. There's really no other, you know, feature that would get in the way of just how amazing this exhaust note sounds. The transmission, as you can see, we're in manual mode here. It actually shifts pretty well for being, you know, almost a 20-year-old ZF 6-speed. You know, it's not even the 8-speed that these newer cars have. It shifts really well with down. It's still really quick, guys. I mean, 4.5 seconds to 60 is nothing too slow. Obviously, you know, within the age of electric cars, with things being 1,000 horsepower, obviously things, you know, feel, you know, or 4 seconds doesn't sound that fast these days, but in my opinion, you know, 4.5 seconds, 180 miles an hour flat out is more than enough, and you're not driving this thing at 10/10 anyway. You're really just in it for the, you know, the sound, the experience, the looks, you know, and in that sense, it really does deliver. And the exhaust note off the tunnel, it just really just does not get old, guys. I am really starting to like this car a lot more than I thought I would, to be honest with you. I know, like I said, people complain about this car being old and doesn't have a lot of technology and stuff like that, but I don't know. I mean, I would just encourage you to get behind the wheel of this thing, and, you know, and obviously make sure your expectations are to not be a rocket ship or anything like that. But if you're looking for like a nice Grand Touring car that, you know, feels really special, and honestly, these things are really cheap these days. That's the other thing I forgot to mention earlier. This thing is being advertised for like 30 grand or 38 grand or something like that, which is a steal in my opinion. This thing only has 33,000 miles as well. So, I mean, like, you really can't go wrong. Obviously, you know, 35 grand is still a lot of money, but if you're in the market for one of these, like, this thing probably had $150,000 MSRP when it was new. So to have this thing, you know, being not that old and, you know, being like a fifth of that price is just incredible. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this quick review and test drive of the gorgeous 2016 Maserati Granturismo Sport. If you did enjoy this video, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe for a ton of great content coming very soon, and I'll catch you in the next one.